Are you ready to get the knowledge to control time? Well, let's 3D print your very own Moon Knight Ankh to go with your Moon Knight cosplay. Let's get printing. Hi, Tracy here from Astrocyte Cosplay. I am back with another Moon Knight weapon prop, and this time we're going to be 3D printing the Ankh, which allowed Moon Knight to have the knowledge to control time in the comics. One of these weapons has already appeared in the MCU version of Moon Knight, so let's see if the Ankh also makes an appearance.
The 3D model of the Moon Knight Ankh was from the ARMory's Patreon back in September. This is the second model that I've printed from this weapon set. I've already printed the Moon Knight Crescent darts, which I'll link the tutorial for that in the description below, as well as a link to his Patreon if you want to check that out. So here we are in Cura. It did come with a full-size model as well as one that was already split in two. Now, the full-size model didn't fit on an Ender 3 size printer. It was too tall, and I was having a little bit of trouble with the orientation, as I didn't really want to support all these sections and waste all that material and the extra time. If you can figure out an orientation, go for it. But I went with the second option, with printing like this one, and then with the idea of filling in the seam when it was done. Now, I did use some supports in this bit here to try and support the top bit here, but they did fail, so I wouldn't recommend that, and it was only a small amount of drooping that you can easily clean up, and there was no problems. And this second piece was just printed just like that, no supports, and just using a raft. With my hot mess off the printer, I've had to give it a bit of a clean up with some clippers, and there were still a few marks, so onto some sanding to try and get rid of those imperfections and the lines. So now we're going to glue this together and try and fill that seam, just using some Loctite super glue. And once it's glued together, I am attempting to fill the seam with just some spare filament. Now, I haven't done this method before. On one side, I'm going to fill with some filament. The other side, I'm just going to do wood filler and see how we go. So I'm going to be honest here, this seam almost broke me. I underestimated how hard it was going to be to use the wood filler and try and keep the detail in this part. So if you can print as one piece model, I would highly recommend that. So on to some primer filler, and this will really show if I've filled that seam or not. And the answer is no. I need to continue doing a lot more work. So back to sanding and filling. So a final coat of primer before we hit it with some paint. I like this primer as it leaves a nicer finish than the filler primer. And then we're going to hit it with a gloss black coat before we hit it with our final gold. So now we're just going to use some rub and buff. Now, a little bit goes a long way. I just rub it on, and then with a microfiber cloth, just give it a bit of a buff to bring out that shine.
Now you have the knowledge to control time, you definitely need a cool weapon to go with your cosplay. So check out this video to 3D print your very own Moon Knight Crescent darts.